I'm Coy Jandreau here at Golden Apple Comics on Melrose Ave here in sunny Hollywood, California, and I'm here with Trevor Stines, who is Jason Blossom on Riverdale.
And I rewatched it 1,000 times, being just a dream come true. The more I got to play Jason, the more I felt like Jason.
More importantly, he is a giant sweaty. You excited to do some comic book shopping?
I am super excited, yeah.
Comic books, comic. So in addition to playing a comic book character, you're actually a ride or die comic book fan. When did all that start? How'd you get into the world of comics?
My first introduction to the world of comic books was actually the 1990s Spider-Man animated series. Spider-Man was my gateway drug into comics. From there, I launched off and started reading Batman and Superman and Daredevil and all these other characters.
So it was the show, we were just flipping through TV one day, or someone flipping through for you because you were a kid.
Yeah.
You just came upon Spider-Man and then you're like, oh, there's books of this.
My mom got me a VHS tape that had 4 episodes, and I watched it and I rewatched it 1,000 times. And then I had a Batman Beyond one, I know, as well, because I was kind of around the same time period. I would literally watch the same episodes so many times.
I broke a VCR doing the skip commercial where I'd stop and then hit record again, trying to get so I empathize. What was the first comic cover you can clearly remember? What comes to mind?
The Todd McFarlane's Amazing Spider-Man #1 from 1990.
Oh, it's Torment. So his just Spider-Man title.
Yeah,
so when he took over, and because he wanted to write and draw, so Spider-Man #1, that iconic, all the webbing behind it and everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're still a Spidey guy. It stuck from the beginning.
I've gone through phases in my life where Spider-Man was my favorite for a long time, and then Batman was my favorite for a while, and now as I've gotten a little bit older, I've come back to just really loving Spider-Man and how he connects to my childhood.
What's a strong pop culture memory you have?
I have a lot of nostalgia for that time period when we didn't have as many comic book movies, that didn't have as huge of budgets behind them, and you were just kind of forced to watch whatever you could get your hands on, because that was me as a kid. I love superheroes so much that I literally would seek out anything I could find, even Shaquille O'Neal's Steel.
Yeah.
Anything I could find that was even marginally related to superheroes, I tried to watch. I unabashedly and unironically love Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I know there are people with differing opinions on that film, but
the director's cut is great. Where's Coolio go? Anyway, that's another conversation. It's another show.
But
defending Daredevil. Well, you be the only person in the history of the show to talk about Steel. So with that, let's go share the next thing. So you are Jason Blossom. This is your face on a comic book. You're on comic books, plural, and there's variant covers. How has life changed, beyond this insanity?
Being just a dream come true. Yeah, my life has changed dramatically. Since Riverdale, I've gotten the opportunity to do so many amazing things. Getting to go to comic book conventions as a guest instead of an attendee, and getting to sign pictures and meet with other creative people and get to live in the experience and of what it really means to be part of such an iconic property. I couldn't ask for anything better.
When was the first time you heard about Jason Blossom?
I obviously knew of Archie Comics my entire life. I grew up around them. I never really sat down to read a ton of them. It wasn't until Riverdale came along when I really developed an interest in it. Jason Blossom is a character, the twin brother of this lovely lady. And so the entire cast of Archie I kind of came to know leading up to the show.
The world of Archie is vast. It's insane. It's been running. 702 is out right now. This comic's been running forever. Was there a moment on set when you were playing Jason Blossom, a character that's around forever, that you, Trevor, realized you were more like him than you thought?
There are a couple moments actually where you really learn more about the character of Jason, and you are really shown how much he really loves his sister, Cheryl. That's their strongest relationship. Just the amount of care that he has is something that I really resonate with. The more I got to play Jason, the more I felt like Jason, and the more Jason felt like me.
Yeah. Is there a favorite Jason Blossom moment from a comic book? So not you.
This, recent, it's super recent, but Blossom 666, Jason Blossom and Cheryl Blossom competing to be the Antichrist in Riverdale, essentially. I have every single variant cover that they've come out with, because it's just mind-blowing to me that this exists, and I get to enjoy it as a lifelong comic book fan.
So now that you're in the comic book space, is there anything you want to do in the world of comics?
I have plans, and I've been talking with some friends of mine, writing my own comic, and a dream of mine a while back was to actually start my own comic book company at some point in my life. It's feeling closer and closer, honestly. You know, I write, in general, like I write poetry and I have a book out now, and it's doing really well. People are really liking it, so I really want to expand on my writing chops.
Final question before we go shopping, because that is very important, and I'm twitching. What is your gateway drug? What would you recommend someone? You've never picked up a comic before. What do you think is a very accessible run to dive into?
Find a character you're interested in, find a recent #1, and see if you like it. Starting with Scott Snyder's run on Batman in the New 52. You can even find the #1 trade, Court of Owls. I think that's a really good jumping on point, especially for the character of Batman. I mean, it's a really, really good story. I love the Court of Owls.
Court of Owls, the weed of comic books. Dive in, check it out. I love Court of Owls. And speaking of which, let's go look at some comics. For my money, I Am Bane and War of Jokes and Riddles are two of the best Batman arcs of all time.
War of Jokes and Riddles really kind of stands out to me. I know it's about like the Joker and the Riddler kind of going to war.
And I love that a through line of this is about the Joker not remembering what's funny. We're gonna dive into a beautiful anthology which just came back very recently. This is Criminal. This is like a beautiful spiritual sequel to 100 Bullets. You read 100 Bullets?
Yeah.
This feels like the same world, and each anthology is set in the same environment, so you might recognize like a side character and they become a lead and stuff like that.
But the lead characters are different.
They all change.
Okay.
Mike Ringo, one of the most underappreciated artists in comics. Every frame looks like a cartoon in motion. I don't understand how his panels work, because to me, I don't even see these as stills. They look like they're coming at me.
Are they on Savage Land?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, okay. You're not ready. There's so much. The stakes are always very high. Why the Last Man is one of those comics that, like, it's a book that everyone has said, you have to read this, you have to read this for so long, but I feel like it's so that no one's picked it up.
I've been wanting to read Why the Last Man for so long, and I've just never gotten around to it. I'm a big fan of Brian K. Vaughan. I think he's a great writer. One
book that I love that is very divisive on the internet, in the world of DC with Bendis, he invented a new character, like he did with a certain Miles Morales. In 5 years, we'll look back at Naomi as his DC linchpin, the beginning of that world. So Superman tears through her town, and then the whole comic is just her dealing with the ramifications and going like, why did this happen to me? Highly recommend Naomi.
Yeah, thank you.
A comic that would not translate, actually, in my opinion. This is issue #2. Fight Club's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I was gonna say, they'd never make a Fight Club movie.
What would it even be? How would you even do it? They'd get like Brad Pitt or something to mess it up. But Fight Club is, I think, one of the rare translations from book to screen that is as good or better. Fight Club 2 upped the stakes where they couldn't have filmed it. The subversion was all insane, all that world. So I'm gonna find you issue 1, but for now there's issue 2. Also, when I mentioned Criminal was back.
Yeah.
They're only on issue 2. Criminal #1 just came out last month.
Okay.
Check out the art on that. Sean Phillips has been his right-hand man for years. His pulpy noir style has just evolved. Deadpool and Black Panther, two characters that should never meet, that don't belong in the same world together. This book is one of the most laugh-out-loud funny books because the team behind it are all comics. They're all like comedians. I love that the art is super kinetic. Very Deadpool sensibility. Like this is a Tim Miller frame to full-on Ryan Coogler's Wakanda. And that's your stack there. So this book is right after Man Without Fear ended. Matt Murdock got hit by another car, and he lost his lack of fear. In order to rebuild himself, this is a 5-issue miniseries about the people in his world.
And the Alex Maleev cover.
Beautiful.
I love Maleev's art.
And Chip Zdarsky writing him is such a different take. And I also see a very important Golden Apple situation. I've been singing the praises of Chuck Palahniuk. Here's a signed #1, so that's why I didn't find it over there, because it was waiting for me to find it signed over here. This is also signed by David Mack. The frames he uses, that wouldn't work in a movie. The energy in here is so much fun. The book has this dirtiness because you see these flies above the panels, which I think is a fascinating like narrative choice. And I also want to plug Savage Sword of Conan, which I'm actually going to add to your stack. This is written by Gary Duggan, who reinvented Deadpool very recently with the Dead President's run, and drawn by Ron Garney, who was on Daredevil for so long. So violent and graphic that it's a visceral experience, and Arnold Schwarzenegger approved. So you ready to check out? You feel like you got a good?
Yeah, I got
some
a lot
reading?
of reading to do, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
How's it going?
Good, man.
Ooh, you find a lot of good stuff?
I feel so good about the stack of comic books. So I'm so hyped for you.
Yeah.
All right. Grand total is $188.61. Enjoy. It's a little heavy, my whole from the bottom.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's
Nice to meet
get
you.
some knowledge. So this has been comic book shopping, and we did a lot of comic book shopping. Where can they find you so they can follow up to make sure you're reading?
Instagram and Twitter at Trevor_Stines. You can get my thoughts on these comic books and more. And you can check out my book. It's called Leather and Glass. It's a book of poetry that's available on Amazon now.
I'd like to thank Golden Apple Comics. I'd like to thank Collider. This has been Comic Book Shopping. Hunt me down on Twitter and Instagram at Coy Jandreau, because this is only the beginning. I have so many more recommendations, and I love talking comics with you. So hunt me down. Thanks, guys.
Stay sweaty.